Because your dye lots are pretty, they stay, the colors stay the same from each time we buy them. So how do you get them to stay the same?
We have, and again, whenever I was first starting out, I was doing everything what they call spoon dyeing because I was doing it from a historical process, and I didn't have to repeat everything in the very beginning because I was doing it for myself. But over time, and once I started selling to other people, I realized that it was really important that it was consistent. So if you get a Lancaster red 6 months later, it's still going to match. And we do try really hard to have the dye lots be very consistent. We monitor the temperature. We weigh all of the dye. So instead of what they used to tease me about spoon dyeing, which is the way they did it like 100 years ago, now we weigh it, and it's down to the thousandth of a gram. The water's all measured, so we try and keep every variable as consistent as possible. We measure the pH of the water. But I guess temperature and the amount of dye in water is probably the most important, so we keep that consistent. And then if it doesn't come out quite right, we actually dye it a second. If it's a little bit too weak or it's a little bit too yellow, then we adjust it, and we might dye it a second time. So the end result's the same.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So let me just suggest to people that they use the Morris Blue for the sky, because it shades so nicely, and it looks like sky, that light blue to dark blue.
Right.
So
and that one's actually named for my son.
What?
Oh, that color is named for my son. His name is Morris. So.
Oh, okay.
And now that he's a little bit older, he wants to know why he has a light blue color, because that's not his favorite color. He thinks it should be red. He thinks his color should be a red because he really likes red better than light blue.
Well,
so it's just kind of funny.
Now you're going to have to dye a red for him.
I know. That's what I told him. So anyway. But it is a really popular color.
My question for you is, I see you have all of these patterns that use your threads.
Right.
How do you go about picking? They come to you, or you go to them and ask them to make something, or?
Both ways. Whenever we go to a trade show, in the very beginning, when I first went to a trade show, and still do, we'll give thread to designers. But in the beginning, I just kind of gave samples to, and again, we started in cross stitch. So it was back in Charlotte I guess 95 was our first trade show. We gave away samples to designers, and then they would use it in their design, and then the end customer pretty much wanted the cross-stitch pattern to come out just like the photograph on the front of the design. So they would go to the local shop and say, I want to use, get these colors. So that's how our fiber first started being sold in the shops. And then as time went on, we started introducing new colors twice a year. And sometimes it was because even if I was working on a project, I might realize I wanted a color that was a companion to, say, like brick, and I wanted to stitch something a little bit lighter. So I did the same color but maybe half as dark, so like 50% the shade. So we did new colors based on if there was a hole in the, kind of like in the rainbow or the color palette, if there was a colorway missing, then we would do a new color. But a lot of times designers would come to us as well and say, I'm trying to do this faded flower, and this color's too bright, and this yellow's too lemony. Can you do a new pale yellow that looks like faded honeysuckle? So, that's how the color honeysuckle became available, was a specific request from a designer. So usually we just kind of listen to what the designers are asking for, or a shop might ask for something specific for a class they're working on. Okay. And they tend to know the competitors' colors and our colors, and they may say there's no one that has a red that goes, a little bit on the red to dark burgundy, or no one has this color, or this one's too bright, or this one's too pale. So we try to listen to what designers are asking for.
Okay, and do customers ever call in and ask for a specific color? Other than needlepoint?
They have, actually. They have. Sometimes we have had requests for that. Sometimes they're really, really good ideas, and sometimes it might be something that, we had a lady one time that wanted us to do a color for her, I think, high school mascot, because she was stitching something, and so it was kind of a strange color combination that we ended up not doing, because I don't know that anyone else would want the same colorway. Right. But we have had some people we have a color called Snowflake, and it's white with just a pale blue and a pale pink. And it was an end customer's suggestion because she wanted to do a snowman, and she didn't want it to look, she wasn't, I guess so many of the cross-stitchers like sampler type older looking pieces, so when they stitch them they look like they're antiqued. And
Right.
she said, I really don't want the snow to have a yellowish tint to it and look old. I want it to be more vibrant, but I still want it to be white. So one of our really popular whites is called Snowflake, and it was from just a customer's suggestion. So
That's great.
anyway.
That's great that you listen to the customers. Hear that, everyone? But don't suggest too many colors. They're busy enough. So my other question is so who actually stitches the samples? Because as the owner of a needlepoint store, we realize that most things sell if there's a sample stitched. So who gets to stitch them?
I'm lucky enough, I guess, most of the time a lot of time designers will either stitch an extra model for us, or when they're not going to go to a trade show, they'll let us borrow their model. So I've gotten a bigger pool of stitched pieces than I could have ever finished myself, or even if I had someone stitch them, I wouldn't have been able to offer as many as I do. So when we go to a trade show, we usually have a couple of pieces that the designer stitched or either had someone stitch, and they may let us borrow it, or sometimes they'll make one for us and we get to keep it, and then we'll take it to a trade show. So we usually do have new models at every trade show. And sometimes they're quilting and they're wool fabric. It's a penny rug or a table runner or something like that, but a lot of time it is a needlepoint or a cross-stitch design.
Okay.
So we try to show a variety.
That's great. It's nice to have the samples.
It is, especially when we go to the TNNA shows. There are mostly needlepointers, but there are hot stitchers, but then there are embroiderers, and occasionally we meet somebody that actually, makes lace or tatting or just different crewel work, or red work or black. So one person might be there looking for one thing, but their eye might be drawn to something else, and they realize a different application or a different way to use a different fiber, or put different fibers together. Or even when we did the wool fabric, we did it for quilters, but a lot of needlepoint shops and cross-stitch shops have incorporated into their designs, even if it's for a finishing or for pillow or for the back of a Christmas ornament or like a banner that would go on a mantelpiece or something.
Okay.
So they have been creative with the way they use the different products and put them together.
Okay, so I am still looking at your website, and you have adorable pictures of your children up.
Thank you.
Blonde children. And they look happy. That's amazing, right? They don't always look like that, sure, but they do.
They're pretty happy. Those pictures, too. Renee and I were talking last week, and she asked if my children were really that young, and I went and looked on the website, and I don't think we've uploaded any pictures in maybe 4 or 5 years. So they're not quite as young as they are on the website. In fact, we have a third child, and she doesn't even have any pictures up there yet, so
see,
maybe one day.
That's not a good thing. That'll put her into therapy for the rest of her life. So
I imagine it will. Maybe I can rectify it before she realizes.
Yeah, let's hope. I know my third doesn't have many pictures of her either. So what is next for you? What's new is coming out?
Well, the newest thing I've technically introduced it, but I really haven't finished it yet. So the newest line will be an embroidery weight or a crewel weight wool fiber that you can stitch with, and it's really similar to Medici from DMC, or Florida Paris has Bella Lusa. That's the base fiber is Bella Lusa. So that will be the newest. And then I would really like to expand on that and offer different weights of wool fibers. But we haven't quite gotten the line. We had 25 colors that we were working on, and we're in production now, but we haven't dyed all 25 to be able to ship them yet. So they will hopefully be ready fairly soon. So that will be the newest line. And eventually I would like to offer something to knitters and crocheters, like a heavier weight, but right now we don't have much for them unless they were to get adventurous and crochet or knit something with like Pearl 3 is the heaviest fiber that we have right now.
Well, it's interesting because we have opened the chat room, and we just have a question asking if anything was suitable for